And we are live. Hello, guys. For the last author chat of today, it's weird having two in one day and both very early. We are here today with one of my all-time favorite authors, Sarah Beth Durst, and her newest book, if I can get my iPad to work, The Bone Maker.
I'll hold mine up too.
I went to so many different bookstores this week trying to find a copy of it, and Books A Million, they like, oh, well, we have one copy, but it's not where it's supposed to be, so we don't know if we actually have it. I'm like,
oh no,
killing me so much. So I was just going to order it from Amazon, but they're like, oh, well, it won't get here until like Friday next week. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work. So I'm like, it's fine. I will survive.
No, I mean, it's release week. It came out on Tuesday, so all the trucks are still getting to places where they need to get to. So
yeah, it's so crazy. Well, guys, if you don't know, Sarah Beth Durst is the author of one of my favorite all-time series, the Queens of Zaranthia series. And I keep telling her, like, we need more books set in that series because it's amazing. It's one of my favorites. Yes. Oh, my God. Those books are so good. Even if you do not read adult books, you need to read those because they are so good, and they need to make a movie out of it, and we need more books set in that world. It's like anything she's willing to write, I will read as long as it is set within the Queens of Zaranthia world. Give it all to me.
Oh, I'm so glad you liked them. I loved writing those books. It was one of those really like immersive writing experiences where I sit down at my desk and I feel like I'm walking through that wardrobe into Narnia, except like Narnia would totally eat you. But it was a lot of fun writing them.
Oh, your publisher needs to write more. We need more. Well, of course, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to becoming an author.
Yeah, well, it's the only thing I've ever wanted to be, except when I was 5 and I desperately wanted to be Wonder Woman, but that didn't work out, which is just as well. But I decided I wanted to be a writer when I was 10 years old and never looked back. I mean, I remember going to the library. Like the first thing I did when I decided I wanted to become a writer was go to the library and take out every single writing craft book in that 808 section of the library and pour through it. And then I read the phone book and I pulled out all the cool sounding names and put each one on an index card, gave them a magical power and a talking animal sidekick. And then I started drawing maps of fantasy places. And that's how I thought one begins to be a writer. But really the secret is just to write a lot. So the phone book's not so necessary. So I just started writing and I wrote, the very first story I ever wrote outside of something I was assigned for school was in 5th grade. And it was a cross between Wizard of Oz and G.I. Joe. And there were trans-dimensional lions. Everybody had their own lion that they could use to travel between dimensions. And there are 28 main characters.
Whoa.
All with a talking animal sidekick and their trans-dimensional lion. Yeah. So that's where I started. And I just kept writing and writing after that. In college, I took a whole bunch of playwriting classes because they would let me do things like put in the stage directions and then a dragon lands on the stage. I'm like, okay. And that's really it. Lots and lots of writing, many talking animals, and here we are.
That's awesome. The lion thing reminds me of Steven Universe because halfway through that series, when he gets a lion, he can actually hop into the lion's hair and go into a different world.
That's amazing. Okay, I need to watch that then.
So that's really cool. Well, so of course, my first question is always going to be about my favorite series from you. Do you think somewhere down the road we might get another book set in the Queens of Zaranthia series?
Someday. I don't have any immediate plans, but I'm not saying never because I really loved writing in that world. It was a lot of fun. That was the first book, Queens of Zaranthia, the Queen of Blood, the first one that I got to draw a map for. I mean, the map that I drew is not the one in the final version. They got an official artist to draw the map in there, but I got to sketch it out. And that was, my 10-year-old self that had been drawing those fantasy maps next to the phone book all those years ago would have been so excited. So I got to do my own map. And once I drew that map, wait, I'm just going to grab it and hold it up so people can see.
And I have to say, going through the phone book for names is very inventive.
A little bit dorky, but yeah. But so I drew this map. And then I started, it's a map I saw some islands down there, and I started wondering, like, what is happening in these islands? So, I mean, for those of you that haven't read it yet, the whole concept is that there are these bloodthirsty nature spirits, these completely out of control nature spirits that create this world with, massive Lothlorien Endor-sized trees and huge glaciers and giant mountains. So these people that live on the island, can you still hear me? My screen went a little
you're
dark.
fine.
Okay. These people that live on the island, they are surrounded by hostile spirits, all these sea monsters, so many sea monsters. And I started really worrying about how they're surviving. So I wrote a standalone novel called The Deepest Blue that can be read without having to read the series, set in that world, because I was worrying about those. And maybe someday I'll return and start worrying about somebody else in this world and seeing how they're doing. But right now, my new one is Bone Maker, which is not set there and has to do with a lot of bone magic and second chances. And I just love writing new worlds. Making up a world is so much fun.
I bet. So for the Bone Maker, I love bone magic. There have been so many different books, both YA and adult, that use bone magic. So it was really inventive to see what you had done with it. So how did you come up with the whole concept of using bones for magic?
Okay, so I had just jotted down on a Post-it somewhere that I wanted at some point to write a story about a character who was wearing a coat with a lot of pockets, because I was really annoyed that my phone doesn't fit in my pockets. And so I jotted this down, and then I asked myself, well, what does she keep in all these pockets? And my brain immediately answered, bones. Like, okay. And that's honestly where it started, with like annoyance at my pockets. And then I started thinking about, okay, bone magic, what kind of bone magic, what can they do with these things? And I built the whole macabre magic system out of that idea, that there are 3 different kinds of the bone magic. The bone makers, who are the ones that can animate inanimate objects using bones. The bone wizards, who carve talismans out of bones that imbue you with a certain attribute like strength or speed or stealth. And 3, the bone readers, who can see the future, little snippets of the future by reading the bones. And then I built once I decided those were my 3 magic types, I built the world around that.
So cool. So how do you differentiate, because you're an author of both YA and adult, how do you differentiate on when you go to write a new book on where it's going to lay within those 2 categories?
The age of the protagonist, whose story it is, what kind of themes they are dealing with. For instance, in Bone Maker, it's all about second chances. The concept is the heroes, it's 25 years after they defeated the big bad. And they're called on to be heroes again, even though they think their story should be over. They think they're done, and they're definitely not. So it had to be an adult novel, because they had to be people that have that past, that have that damage in their past, that have those relationships that have been built up over so much time. Whereas a YA book, it's a different kind of story. It's usually like more of the first time you gain agency, when you're defining yourself separate from where you came from, where you're first choosing your path and first walking that path by yourself. So that kind of story automatically lends itself to YA. I don't sit down and say, now I'm going to write for teens, or now I'm going to write. It's just, this is the story I want to tell. These are the kind of characters that can tell it best. And then you just try to see it through their eyes as honestly as possible. Right. And it comes out adult YA or kids.
Right. I think that's why, because you write kid books too. You do middle grade, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. I was like, wait, that's right. I've seen that book. Yeah. So hard to keep. Is it hard to keep track of all the different titles that you've read, that you've written?
Yes. Sometimes, because when I start working on a new novel, I immediately kind of leave the world of the prior novel. And, when a new book comes out, I've been living in the world of the next book for so long that I have to go back and be like, what are my character names? Oh, no. And I feel so bad, because I created these people, They're in my heart, yet who are they? Oh, wait.
That's got to be so hard because, having to go back, and it's like, do you actually like have to maybe go back and maybe reread or read your own books to kind of get back into it?
I try not to because, goodness, what if I saw a typo? I don't want to know. But yeah, you're right, because if I do a reading from it, I need to go through and pick out a section, sort of to sink back into that world. I mean, once I hear the language again and the rhythm, because every book has its own music to it.
Right.
And once you find that music, that's when it starts coming together. So when you reacquaint yourself with the rhythms and the melody of it, then you can be back in it. I mean, that's how I did the Queens of Zaranthia trilogy. Was I would have to find that music again, and then I could go back into that world.
Right. I think I love those so much because they're kind of like, I would consider them like a transition book because they kind of work for YA and adult. So just makes them better.
Yeah. I'm so glad you like them. Yeah, I mean, they've got multiple protagonists. When you start out in Blood with Delena, I mean, she starts out, the first scene, she's very young, and then we hop to her being, young adult, and then she grows up, and it's Reluctant Queen, book 2, that adds Naylin, who is the middle-aged mother.
Yeah.
Becomes our second protagonist. So that's one of the fun things about writing a trilogy is you get to layer on more story into the world that you've already built.
Mm-hmm. It works so well.
Thank you.
I love that series. It's still one of my all-time favorites.
Ah, that's wonderful to hear.
So the Bone Maker had so much humor and then drama in it. How did you come out with a good balance of knowing what to do, what when?
I sort of trusted the characters. I mean, these are characters that have known each other for a long time. And when you know somebody for a long time, you kind of build up banter with them. And I just, they've been coping with a lot. They went through that whole giant battle in which they lost one of their number 25 years ago. And humor is such a basic coping mechanism. I mean, it's how people deal with the world. I mean, not just gallows humor, but how you face anything. If you can find what's funny and it helps get you through it. So these characters, to feel real to me, they needed that sense of humor. They needed that banter back and forth while they're facing the epic struggles that they face. So it just felt right to me to do it. I just sort of trusted, what would the characters do in this situation? How would they cope with this? Would they be dramatic about it, or would they try to laugh it off and get through it that way? And just sort of went by instinct on it. A lot of writing is trying to get your conscious brain to like shut off so that you can get the work done. And trusting in your sense of story and what you find entertaining and what you find interesting and what you're passionate about, and going for that. And I like.
I think it works out a lot better, right? Yeah. I think it works out a lot better when you have like that good blend, because then it makes it serious but not like too serious in certain parts. So it makes it a little bit lighter, especially nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, I want my books to be an escape. No, I want people to be able to spend a few hours away from whatever is out there bothering them and upsetting them, and to come into these worlds and to go on these adventures and then come out the other side and maybe feel a little more ready to face everything else that's out there.
Right. So magic. You have gone through so many different magic systems and stuff, and in all of them, magic always has a cost. How do you come about deciding on what that cost is going to be?
Oh, that's a good question. Whatever I think is most cool at the time. And it depends. In a book like Bone Maker, where you're doing such sort of phenomenal things that have the power to change the very fabric of life, the cost can't be small, or it doesn't feel real. In the case of Bone Maker, in the forbidden power to bring someone back to life, the cost is for each day that they live, you live one day less.
Right.
And this seemed sort of cosmically fair to me.
Mm-hmm.
and it felt like it would be true. I mean, I think that's what you're aiming for when you're writing in a fantasy world. Is it's not real, but you want it to feel true. You want it to feel honest, and like it all hangs together. And that felt like the right kind of cost for such an impressive kind of magic.
Yeah, I think it works really well. Oh no, it does. It definitely works really well. You know, like the Queen Zaranthia, you know, when the new queen takes over, the previous queen gets murdered by all the fairies, you know. It works, you know, it makes sense. So
yeah,
very dark, but
and that is really the way that I do the world building is, you know, I make one decision and then I chase down what are the consequences of this kind of decision. You know, what impact would it have on the world, on the people that live in the world, on the society, on their history, on the politics, on all of it. And then you end up with a world that feels cohesive. So that's kind of my end goal with the world building. Awesome. Is something that feels like you could walk into it.
Well, it's definitely been most of the books that I've read from you. You can definitely feel like you're in that world with the characters, going through the story with them. So what is next for you?
Well, next, the next book that's coming out is actually my next kids book. So that's for like ages 8 to 12. Many fewer bones in that one. All the bones are inside the people in that one. It's called Even and Odd, and it's about these two sisters who share magic. So they have magic on alternating days. And they nickname themselves Even and Odd because one has magic on even days and one has magic on odd days.
Cute.
They were young enough that they didn't figure out that some months have 30 days and some months have 31. Right. But the nicknames stack. And so they go on this adventure after the border between our world and the magic world closes, and they go on an adventure with a unicorn named Jeremy. And it was
That's cute. And do you have anything coming out after that?
Yes, I'm working now on a book that I believe the title is going to be The Shelterlings. Ooh. And it's about animals in the shelter for rejected familiars.
Oh, wow. Is that going to be young adult?
That one's a kids book as well. So yeah, I just set it aside right before this. I'm revising it right now.
That sounds so cute though. Oh my God.
It's a lot of fun. The main character is a talking squirrel. So every time I look out the window, I'm like, I'm doing research now.
Oh my God. Because you don't think about that, you know, like what happens to the familiars of witches and stuff when, you know, I don't know, the witch dies or they don't need them anymore. Oh, that's adorable.
Thank you. So that'll be out a year from spring. So whatever your next year is, 2022. Right.
So
I can't get back up time anymore.
Oh God, neither can I. I've been working constantly. I'm working or reading, and I'm not doing anything else unless I'm like watching something that's taped. So it's like it's like, wait, what? Oh, I have to go to work tomorrow. Crap. So what have you been reading lately?
Oh, well, let's see. I'm like looking across my shelf. My favorite that I have read most recently is Martha Wells' The Murderbot Diaries. It starts with All Systems Red is the first one. And you wouldn't think a book called Murderbot would be charming, but it is absolutely delightful. It's just so cute and awesome science fiction. Have you read them?
No, I don't think I've heard of those.
They are really fun. Like the main character is sort of a cyborg kind of security guard, robot, human-ish character. And it just is so snarky and looks down on humans, and it's hilarious.
Oh,
it's like humans are too squishy. I don't like slightly neurotic, and it's a lot of fun. And the other book I read most recently that I absolutely loved was The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune.
Okay, I've seen that one.
That one's also charming in a different way. That one is like super sweet. And I got to the end and I just wanted to flip back to the first page and read it again. It was a little bit like Miss Peregrine's Home for
Okay, right.
But more sweet than adventure-y, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And it was so beautifully written and charming, to use that word again. I like books that make me happy.
Right.
How about you? What have you been reading
Oh,
lately?
oh goodness. I've been reading so much. I just got done reading Crave by Tracy Wolf again, and I am finally getting into Crush and Covet because I did not get a chance to read them because work and insane power outages, and my youngest got sick. It's just all hit at the same time. It's just like,
Oh.
I'm not going to read these fast enough. And then, of course, I read your book and really, really tried hard not to dive into my Keep series behind me to dig out my copies of the Queens of Renthia series to reread them because I haven't read them in a while. So that is going to be happening sometime this year. What else have I been reading? Oh goodness. I actually just started I'm gonna so script this title with Shield and Ink and Bone. She's coming on later this month. This is so good.
I haven't heard of that one. All right, I'll have
Yeah,
to remember it.
she's self-published, but like if you saw this book in like the store, you would not think this was self-published. Let me find one of these pages. Like these title pages are just
Gorgeous.
aren't they beautiful?
Yeah, that's lovely.
I mean, it's so I've seen a lot of self-published authors, and that one is just formatted so nicely.
That's really nice.
She did her work and did it correctly, and I love her for it.
I love books that are beautifully packaged.
Yes.
Grace Lynn's, what's the title? When the Mountain Meets the Moon is just, it's such a gorgeous book. I mean, the illustrations, the font changes color throughout depending on who's pointing, what kind of story.
I love that.
It's really a beautiful object as well as a gorgeous story.
Right.
I love when people pay attention to that kind of detail.
Right, because it's like, back in the day, books were all, leather bound. They didn't have dust jackets and stuff. And, now, and it's changed that they don't bind books that way for the most part anymore, at least not generally. And now it's like we've got these beautiful covers, and it's just nicer when, it all incorporates the pages and everything else just incorporates everything together.
Yeah,
it's so pretty that way.
I do read ebooks, but I still just love the feel of an actual hard copy book and having them on my shelves. It's like being surrounded by friends,
Well, I'm definitely surrounded by books in this room. They're behind me, in front of me, over there, they're everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. You're facing my closet right now, but like in every other direction, there are bookshelves.
Right. That's my keep stuff behind me. That's standalones and then series. And then there's another shelf over here with nothing but series. Then all my TBRs on this side of the room. So it's yeah.
Yeah.
It is books.
I always love seeing pictures online of people's bookshelves that are super organized and do the whole rainbow by color thing, which
I would never find anything.
No, I know. How would you remember which was the blue book? But it looks so pretty when people do that.
Right. It's like you got to have like 2 libraries, and you're like, okay, this is everything I have a duplicate of. This will put in rainbow. It doesn't matter if I can find anything. It's just for photos.
Yep. You definitely need a library with one of those ladders that roll around.
Of course.
I want one of those. Yeah. So you can just grab on and like your Beauty and the Beast and sail across the room.
With my luck, I'd probably like hit something and jump off and I would go crashing.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, that's probably pretty accurate.
I think the best one that I've ever seen, it was in a house, and it was a circular house. So this room was nothing but circular. So their ladder went all the way around. And she's like, yeah, it's hard to keep her kids off of it because they will just take a running leap and just go all the way around the room. Yeah. And it's like, because it's just continuous. I'm like, okay, yep, that's where you would find me. That is what I would be doing,
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't have spinny chairs and stuff. I might be almost 40, but it's, just sit there and spin.
I think that's perfectly reasonable. Yes.
Oh, yeah. So are there any books that you can't wait to get your hands on that's coming out this year that we should put on our radar?
The next Murderbot book is coming out. And I just got the newest Charlene Harris, The Russian Cage, which is in the Gunny Rose series, which are these magical gunslinger books. So I'm excited to read that. That's like staring at me, sitting there as a reward. If I read enough chapters, I'll go read that. And then I also just got, and it's on its way, a new short fiction collection by Terry Brooks called Small Magics that I'm excited to read.
Oh, that one looks really good.
Yeah, it looks fun. I don't think I've read any of his short stories. I've only read the novels. So
I love the Weird Sisters series. And what is it? The Color of Magic?
Yeah, though the Weird Sisters are the best. I loved Granny Weatherwax. It's
I
fun.
remember I still have oh goodness, the DVD from the cartoon that they had created
There
for
was
the
a
Weird Sisters. Yeah, there was a
really?
cartoon. Oh yeah,
Was
yeah.
it
Oh, I
good?
love that thing. Oh, it was adorable. I
Oh,
love that thing. It was so good.
there are actually some really good cartoon reboots that are out that I have watched since, the last year. The She-Ra reboot is amazing.
Oh
And
yes, that one is. That was so good.
wasn't that so good? I loved it so much. All the characters were brilliant. And the Voltron reboot was also
Hmm.
excellent.
My daughter, my oldest, she made me watch all of those, and she was so upset with the ending of Ultron with what they did. She's like, no.
Oh, She-Ra definitely ended perfectly, though. I thought
Oh
they
yeah.
really nailed that ending. It was so beautifully written. The whole thing, just all the character development and Catra and it was so good. I love well-written shows where they like actually pull off all of the world building and the character development, and you just feel all satisfied and warm and snuggly at the end of them.
Hmm. Like it's so sad though, because like we got addicted to was it My Little Pony, the friendship is magic thing,
Uh-huh.
and then of course it ended, and then they rebooted it, and now they're like these little chibi things, and it's like these look like the My Little Ponies from my nightmares.
Oh,
No, no, this you guys wanted to reboot this or something, and this was the best you could come up with. Seriously, just no, no, just no.
oh no! I do.
It was so creepy looking.
I have not seen, and no, that's good to know. Yeah, I love the way that stories can just imprint on you in that way, especially stories that you first encountered when you were kids. Like we recently rewatched Labyrinth, which I've probably
Hmm.
seen 20 million times.
Right.
And I'm watching, I'm like, this explains so much of who I am and why I write what I am too. And the stories you consume when you're that formative age, like 8 to 12, I guess, um, just have so much resonance when you get to be older. Like they become this comfort food and these touchstones. And I think that's so cool.
My kids are doomed.
Oh dear.
We watch lots of horror movies.
Oh yeah, they're doomed. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, lots of horror movies. Like they've seen both things of Stephen King's It and all those different things. We love horror movies.
Well,
That's like
maybe
all
that'll
my oldest watches.
serve them well later in life if they ever run into, a
They will survive.
yes, exactly. Survival is key. I do think, I actually seriously do think that that's what fantasy books excel at, is
Mhm.
telling you that you can survive this. I mean, it's such like the extreme sport of storytelling. We put these characters into these insane situations and push them to the absolute extreme and see if they change or break. And going through this journey with them, I think you come out stronger. And I think that's one of the things I love about fantasy. I love that feeling when you close a fantasy book and the world feels a little more magical than it did
Mhm.
before. And that's why I've always been drawn to it. So somebody asked me in some interview not that long ago of how my reading tastes have changed now that I'm a grown up, and I'm like, they were supposed to change.
It's like no, no.
No.
No. Yeah, it's like people ask me that a lot of times because I generally read young adult. I'm like, I will give any book the time of day. I will try any book. It doesn't matter adult, young adult, kids, whatever. I will try every single book. I don't have any problems with that. But that it's very few and far between on like contemporaries and stuff if it's going to mesh well. But every
Right.
once in a while, one surprises me. A couple of books. I think last month that I was doing for my show, I was like, I'm so going to DNF this. And then I read it like in one day. It was amazing. And I fell so head over heels with it because you never know. It's like, that's why I tell everybody, at least try it. Try the book, give it at least 50 to 100 pages. And then at that point, if you don't care if the characters fell off the face of the planet or blew up or something, okay, then that book's just not for you. Go to the
Yeah.
next one.
Yeah, caring about the characters is absolutely key, because the world and the concept could be amazing, but if you don't care what happens to the character, and they don't need to be likable, but you have to like care.
Exactly. You know, because it's like I've read a few that it's like, why do I care? I don't care about your predicament. I don't care. I don't care that you're having these issues.
Right.
Come on, let's do something else, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the heart of storytelling, is that character acting as a vessel to carry you through the world and get you through the story. So, I mean, when I write, I try to always fall in love with my characters. That I can't proceed unless I have fallen in love with their voice and want to hang out with them for the next, 300 pages or whatever.
Right. It's hard to like a book if you don't care about the character.
Absolutely.
You know, like even like Heartless, Melissa Meyer, you know, we know that she's going to turn into the Red Queen. She's going to turn evil. But, you know, a fourth of the way through that book, you're just screaming at her, no, don't make these bad choices. You need to be good. I love you. You can't do this to me, even though we know it's not going to work. She's going to turn evil, but you so pray that she isn't.
Yeah, and then you keep turning the pages, and yeah, that is perfect. And I love the way that the characters can go and like continue to live on inside you, and they become real inside this like person that doesn't exist, that somebody else thought up, then becomes part of how you relate to the world. I think.
So do you ever sit down with like your previous books and like, oh, hey, you just happen to see it. It's like, oh, I wonder what these people are doing at this particular moment in time.
I do think about them. And there are some characters I really like, I miss hanging out with. I know when I finish a book that I'm supposed to celebrate. You're supposed to feel like, confetti is raining down and like, woo, I'm free. But I don't feel that way. I actually get really sad when I finish a book, because I've been living with these characters and in this world. I don't want to say goodbye.
Right.
So I actually always start the new book the same day that I finish the old book. I email the manuscript off to my editor and go have a snack, usually cheese, and
can't go wrong with cheese.
The next book.
Oh goodness. Yeah. It's so depressing on how, like, especially long series, that you finished it and it's like, well crap, what am I supposed to do now?
Right? Don't you find yourself like reading slower, even if you love the book, but because you love the book, I'm like, nope, don't want this to end. I'll just read this paragraph really slowly. And
see, I don't tend to do that because I don't really have time to just read slowly. I just read at my normal pace, but it's like it's over. There's been a few books where it's like, well, just crap, what am I going to do now? And it's like, okay, well, we're just going to put this over in this stack so I can reread it here in like a week or two, because it was just so epic and you don't want it to leave. I remember when I first started reviewing books 11 years ago, I don't remember what book it was, but I physically went and found the author and asked them, hey, what went on with these characters after this book ended? Because it had been out for a while. I was like, no, I need to know, how were these characters? And she sent me like this really long email, like, oh, they're fine. They got kids and everything's fine. I was like, oh, that's so nice to have that update, which is so weird, but it's so crazy.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I love that author did that. That's so cool.
It's like now, like all the authors out there that do series and stuff, you guys need to like sit down, do like a 1-page short novella and just give us an update. Hey, it's been 10 years. This is what they're up to.
Yeah, they're doing fine. Yeah. Yeah, because at the end of any story, if it's a world that feels real, there's going to be more story that follows. Right. They're going to go on and have lives, unless they all died in the story, in which case I probably don't read it because that sounds really depressing. So,
which is making me holding out hope for more books set in the world of the Queen of Renthia series because I need more.
Maybe someday. I make no promises in either direction. So
it's like at this point, it's been 10 years down the lane. Yo, Sarah, any more books in the Queen of Renthia series? No, I'm not doing any more right now. Okay, make something up and send it to me. I don't care.
All right, now I'll make a note.
It's so crazy. There's another book that I always tell people about from Bethany Wiggins. Was one of the first books that she did called Shifting, and it's a standalone. but it's like it needs to be a series, but it's been out for like forever. And I'm like, I don't care if it ever gets published. Write me something and send it to me. I will read it.
Yeah, there are definitely books I've read that, like Sunshine by Robin McKinley. I want more. And she said that she's not doing more. But I'm like,
there needs to be more.
I want more. Have you read that one? It's a vampire one. Yeah. Every time I've reread it, so the main character that remember that she bakes these like cinnamon rolls?
Mm-hmm.
I will be hungry for cinnamon rolls for like a month after reading it. Yeah.
It's so sad though, because it like you go to reread it because you loved it. Mm-hmm. Like I found my copy when I was cleaning and shifting, and it's in my TBR now for me to reread it when I get to that tote. And I'm like, I'm just setting myself up for more punishment.
Wanting more. I guess it's a sign that it's good, that if you want more. Yeah. I do find that like if an author is really good at describing food, I will have to go eat while I'm reading it. I recently heard that they're going to do an adaptation of Redwall. And
I've seen that.
The feast scenes, I'm going to require so many snacks to watch this.
There was another, was it Tweet Cute? Came out, and I was so mad because the recipes weren't in the back of it. They're on her website though. I found that out later on. But it's like, if you're gonna put like physical, like you are making food in the book, please put the recipe in there because they need it.
There's an author. Oh, now I'm blanking on the title of the book, but the author's name is Beth Cato, and her website has. She bakes like these amazing things all the time, and her website is like full of recipes. So
it's like, give me all the food.
Yes. That's definitely one thing I've been doing along with everybody else in the world in the past year is baking bread.
Oh.
So.
Well, hey, at least you know what's in it,
Right. It's like magic. No one ever told me. It was like doing a magic. Like you take this white powder, you put in some other stuff, and all of a sudden, this amazing thing that I love to eat, if I do it right.
Right.
I haven't always done it right, but if it turns out right, this totally different thing. Like that scene in with Rey in Star Wars, and when she puts the packets in this whole roll pops up. It's like, oh, that's magical. I'm like, oh no, wait, that's bread making. Okay, cool.
And it makes your house smell so good.
It does.
And are you doing it in a bread maker or in like the oven?
In the oven.
Okay, yeah, because that works so much better.
Yeah, it's been fun.
It smells so amazing.
Yes, and I like to snack when I'm writing. So I actually discovered that the length of my chapters, just sort of naturally, like my natural flow of how long a chapter is how long I can write before I get hungry. So, like that's not deep
bread on standby.
Yeah. Like, okay.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was great. I love talking with authors, especially, favorite authors, which are amazing. Guys, if you haven't checked out Sarah's books, definitely do that. Bone Maker was amazing. And so, of course, with the Queen of Zaranthia series, buy it and then come talk to me.
Thank you so much for having me here. It was so fun talking to you, and it's great to meet you.
And guys, you can check out the show for tomorrow once I get back to YouTube here so I can remember what time it is for. I will be talking to A.K. Wilder of Crown of Bones. More bones!
More bones! Yay!
At 7 p.m. tomorrow. So make sure to check that out. And I will actually be giving away my ARCs on Instagram. So check that out tomorrow, and I will catch you guys later. Bye!